Yeah. Thanks. All right, it's now 11:30. I'm going to go ahead and kick things off. I don't have anything for my report, but I wanted to ask if there's any housekeeping items or questions. I know there's some questions about the agenda, so we can walk into that if now's a good time.
Regular agenda.
Okay, Commissioner Goldthorpe.
I know we're going to be moving at least the item number 5 has been solved, and we're going to ask that that be removed from the agenda. But there's been a lot of good things, in my opinion, happening over the last year that brought us to the point where we don't have to condemn that property. And Travis Hunter has asked that he be able to explain those good things, and he won't be able to unless we allow him, because that item is going off the agenda. So if we would allow that, that'd be great.
Sure.
Thanks.
Okay. Is that okay, Steve? Oh, you want to talk about it now, I guess, or do we want to wait till? I was thinking
It's cool.
I was thinking when it comes up, or you're talking about the consent agenda, or regular agenda?
Regular.
Wait.
Number 5, we're taking it off, apparently.
Oh, whoops, sorry, I circled the wrong things. Thank you. Okay. Yes, Steve?
Madam President, Commissioners, Steve Price, General Counsel. Probably the best way to do it is just to address the agenda item, invite Mr. Hunter up to testify, and then the commission can make a motion to have it removed back to staff.
Is that okay with you, Commissioner Goldthorpe?
Yeah.
That sounds great. Thanks, Steve. Any other questions about the agenda? Commissioner McKinney?
Yes, Madam President, myself and also Commissioner Hanson had questions about items 6 and 2 on the consent agenda, and it seems like they might be able to be resolved fairly quickly, but perhaps we could take a few moments and discuss those right now. So if, I don't know which one you want to take first. Let's, since I opened my mouth, 6 on the consent agenda, the Amendment 4 for the Franklin Traffic Operations Center. Just curious about the size of this change and how it fits in, and make sure that I'm not misunderstanding what's going on.
Yeah, thank you, Madam President, Commissioner McKinney. For the record, Ryan Head, Deputy Director of Development and Technical Services. This is the last amendment to the CMGC contract to bring in all of the remaining items for the construction there. When the estimate most recently came in, we did an evaluation to compare it against the earlier estimates and what costs had changed. The majority of it is the cost of steel has gone up. A number of other items have just had a cost increase. It's not for any gold plating or anything along those lines. It's just the cost have gone up over the last year from when we evaluated it to when the bids came in. This was a competitively bid. That's why you got all 400 pages in there, giving you the details, and all items are bid, and those are the award or the lowest cost bidders. That's the right word. Who came up to that cost estimate that we're seeing today.
Okay, well, and I guess the reason I'm asking the question is I see that we've got a $23 million number, and now suddenly it's going up to $30 million. So we're increasing by $7 million. But is that simply we're taking, was the original budget all along the $30 million, and we're simply bringing in some $7 million from next year and putting into this year's budget? How are we getting this $7 million change? What accounts for that?
Madam President, Commissioner McKinney, maybe to clarify, there's $4 million in this year's budget 23 million in next year's budget, and then $4 million in the following year's budget. So that brings us to the 31 million for the cost of the project. So that's been anticipated. The dollar figure has gone up a little bit over time because of cost increases to the items, but overall it's budgeted for, and it's not an increase in next year's budget. Next year's budget is 23 million, and that's the amount of work we expect to be completed next year, with the final items in 2025.
Okay, so 23 million was never intended to be the total budget. It was always slated at about 30 million.
It's always been roughly in that 27 million range. It's gone up a little bit,
Okay.
due to cost increases, but overall it's been roughly in that area from the beginning.
Okay, all right, that makes sense. Okay, very well, thank you.
Commissioner Hanson.
Great, just a similar question. I've been noticing our bids, fortunately, we went through a phase where they were all coming in well above budget. And now recently, we've had a lot coming in at or below budget. But then this stormwater one, boom, almost 50%. What's the deal? I know that staff memo said just cost generally. Have we turned the corner? Are we now at the point where we're gonna start experiencing?
Madam President.
Because this is a complicated sewer project.
Madam President, Commissioner Hanson, I think it's not indicative of a trend in any way at this point in time. This is the first standalone stormwater pond we've done. This is taking into account the stormwater for a number of projects in downtown Meridian. And so we developed this as its own independent project. Internally, we developed the cost estimate using our best resources. Never really done something of this nature to the level this is. And so we used our best to come up with an estimate. This is going to give us more information moving forward as we prepare bids for these.
Good, okay, that helps.
Yep.
Great.
Go ahead.
And this, I don't know if it's you, Ryan, or not, but there are 3 agreements, interagency agreements with cities. 2 of them we negotiated last spring. I noticed the mayors of Boise and Meridian signed them on June 6th. How come? I know because the issue of, oh my gosh, we got to get started to build things. And when you start getting to this point in the construction season, it's like, I don't know whether we can start now. What's the reason it took more than 2 months?
Yeah, Madam President, Commissioner Hanson, we didn't get the at least on the Peasley one, we didn't get it until the end of June. So it was sat at the city for a time, and then we processed it according to our normal schedule and reviewing those things. So that's how it's come to you today.
Yeah. And the Topaz one from Meridian, is that the same deal? Didn't get it until...
Likely a similar deal, but we don't sit on agreements when they're there.
I didn't think so.
We'll also be looking at the development process through this and looking at plans, and it may be just in the scheduling of those plans and getting those approved too.
Okay, good. It just jumped out.
We're in a good time.
Okay, good. That's all I needed to know.
Thanks, Ryan. Any other questions? If not, over to you, Sherry.
Okay, well, thank you very much, Commissioner Pickering and the rest of the commission. We do not have a director's report today, but I do believe Justin wanted to talk about one other item on the regular agenda that will come off.
Thank you, Commissioners. For the record, Justin Lucas, Deputy Director of Planning and Projects. Steve, and we've had some discussions already, and thank you, Commissioner Goldthorpe, for bringing that up about item number 5. I'm also happy to report item number 4, which is another condemnation scheduled for today on your agenda. We've come to a resolution with that property owner, and we do not need to move forward with the authorization and order of condemnation today. So same process. When that item comes up, you'll feel free to open that up. I can come up and basically state what I just said, and then we would request that the commission take no action and just remand it back to staff indefinitely, or just remove it from the agenda, whatever your pleasure is.
Thank you, Justin.
With that, I'll stand for any questions.
All right. Thank you, Sherry.
Thank you.
We'll be at ease until noon. Thank you. All right, everyone, it's now 12 o'clock. I'm going to go ahead and call the meeting to order. Welcome folks in person and online. Please join us in standing for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. And I'm going to go ahead and turn things over to Commissioner Hanson.
Thank you, President Pickering. I just wanted to ask for a moment of silent reflection in memory of someone who many people who have been at the Highway District for many years knew and appreciated. Joanne Butler passed away suddenly over the weekend. It was quite a shock. I've known Joanne for more than 30 years since when she first came to Boise. And her grace and her wisdom will be sorely missed. It's really tough. I also know that Christy wanted to say something. Christy Little worked with her quite a lot. She has practiced in front of this agency for decades, and her presence will be missed.
Thank you, Madam President, Commissioner Hanson. I appreciate a minute to say a few words. I remember when I started here in 1999, Joanne's name would pop up on caller ID and all of our staff would cringe because we were so afraid of her. But it didn't take long, not only for staff at ACHD, but all of the land use agencies to quickly realize that Joanne was always on our side too. And she made such a huge impact, not only in the Treasure Valley, but in the entire state on land use planning and land use law. And I learned so much from her. She always did the right thing, regardless of which agency or which developer she was working with or working for. And the last big project I worked with her on was the downtown St. Luke's expansion. And that was a couple of years of weekly meetings, and it was fun to get to know the personal side of her, to go along with her great professionalism. So our staff will surely miss her.
Thank you. Thank you. If we could have a moment of silence. Thank you.
Thanks, Commissioner. Thanks, Christy. All right. Well, the first order of business is to adopt the agenda. Is there a motion?
So moved.
Second.
So moved and seconded. Any discussion? All those in favor say aye. Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. The next order of business is to adopt the consent agenda. Items on the consent agenda are considered routine and are action items unless otherwise noted. The consent agenda is enacted by one motion. There is no separate discussion on items on the consent agenda, but if a commissioner or citizen would like, they may request any item be removed from the consent agenda and placed on the regular agenda. If we do not have any of those requests today, I will entertain a motion to approve the consent agenda.
Madam President,
Commissioner McKinney.
with thanks to the staff for answering some questions in our pre-meeting, I move that we approve the consent agenda as presented.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded. Any discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Thanks, commissioners. All right, moving on to item number 1 on the regular agenda. It's the subdivision improvement agreement for East Starview Drive improvements, and it's requested to defer.
Does Mr. Price want to speak to it?
Christy or Mr. Price?
Madam President, Commissioners, Christy Little, Development Services Manager. Again, bearing bad news, but Mark Tate's mother-in-law passed away this weekend. And so I actually requested this deferral while he contended to his family matters. So we're requesting deferral to September 6th. Neighborhood Association's been notified. Mr. Binion was in the midst of reviewing the draft agreement, and he's been notified as well.
Thanks, Christy. Commissioners, any questions for staff?
I think I just had a question. I know I saw in the attached materials the proposed language from Mr. Tate, and I'm sure you're looking at that and incorporating that. Anyway, some questions that were raised by some of the neighbors, so I'm sure you'll look into those. We got a really nice, pretty detailed letter from one of the neighbors there asking about the impact of the surety bond. So that'd be great to address those
We'll make sure we do.
on the 6th. Thank
Okay,
you.
Thank you.
Any other questions? If not, commissioners will entertain a motion to defer.
Second.
Moved and seconded. Any discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Motion carries. Thank you. Item number 2 is the authorization order of condemnation for Eagle Road and State Street intersection, parcel 48. This is a public hearing, so I'm going to go ahead and open the public hearing. Welcome, Mr. Sirdar.
Thank you, Madam President, Commissioners. For the record, David Sirdar, right-of-way supervisor for the Ada County Highway District. As stated, this is a decision briefing for a condemnation. The condemnation is on our Eagle Road and State intersection project. This is parcel 4048, which is title is held under First Security Bank, which actually means the current owner is Wells Fargo. This project is in the 2022 to 2026 integrated 5-year work plan, and construction is scheduled to begin for fiscal year 2024. Here is the vicinity of the acquisition. As you can see, we see Eagle Road kind of there on the west side, or as you look to this, your left. This acquisition is on the north side of Plaza Street. Just to the south would be the Albertsons. That was the item that was before the commission last week. Oops, sorry, I hit the wrong button. There we go. This is a more close-up view of the acquisition. Keep hitting the wrong button. Sorry about that. And here's the property description for your review. The summary of negotiations is the offer was mailed on April 27th, 2023. In June, there was multiple emails and phone calls going between ACHD and Wells Fargo staff. ACHD has met with the owner's representative in June of 2023. We did mail the 10-day letter on July 14th of 2023. In July and August, there have been no fewer than 5 discussions regarding the issues with the building and construction issues. ACHD has waited for a counteroffer as well as information from Wells Fargo Architect, but we have not received that yet. We will continue, staff will continue to work with Wells Fargo on this issue, but we are with this project on a critical timeline, and so that's why we're here before you today. It is staff recommendation that we declare the acquisition area necessary for the project as a right-of-way and public use, authorize staff to proceed with the condemnation action, and execute an order of condemnation. I will remain standing for any questions, and we do have our legal counsel here, our general counsel here, as well as our manager of capital projects for any technical or legal questions.
Thanks, Dave. Commissioners, any questions for staff?
Madam President?
Commissioner McKinney?
Dave, looking at this image right here, it looks like the right-of-way that's being acquired goes right up to the building. And I don't know if you can speak to this, but does this, does the construction here then, create some sort of, any sort of like zoning problems with setbacks or anything like that, that we need to be aware of, or that we're potentially creating, what have you? And maybe that's a question for the design people, but give me an idea of what's happening here. The curb gutter and sidewalk are just moving further away from the center line of the road. The road is widening. Is that what's happening?
Correct. Correct. I think Justin's gonna.
Madam President, members of the commission, Justin Lucas, the Deputy Director of Planning and Projects here at the Highway District. So, Commissioner McKinney, you're correct. It's hard to see in an aerial view exactly where the right-of-way will land. We are getting closer to the building than it is today. Typically in commercial zoning, and it's the case in this situation, there are no setbacks typically for commercial properties. They allow for zero lot line development in downtown Eagle. So we're not encroaching on any setbacks or creating any issues related to zoning as part of this project.
So, but it does look like the new sidewalk then is going to be just right next to the building, basically.
Madam President, Commissioner McKinney, yeah, the current sidewalk and pathway in this area is basically adjacent to the building, and what we have to replace will be basically adjacent to the building. And so it's just formalizing that with our project, and we are working with the owners to make sure everything matches up correctly.
Okay, and let me just ask, and this is just maybe a question of curiosity. I noticed that the easement, the temporary easement appears to encompass a portion of the building itself. Is that a common situation, or is that just kind of
Madam President, Commissioner McKinney, I went over this with my staff this morning, and part of the problem that happens is when you get these pictures, the plane can never be over every place at one time, so it's actually offset. So that red line should actually move down to where the blue line is a little bit, because it's just an offset. We see these offsets of about 2 to 3 feet all the time on these. So,
okay, so that's just
it actually
an
is
artifact.
not touching the building. It's going right up to it.
Okay, so that's an artifact of the aerial photograph.
Yep,
Okay.
correct.
All right. Okay, and then what kind of I didn't see any cost information. What sort of a cost are we looking at for acquisition of the right of way?
Madam President, Commissioner McKinney, we're actually looking at an acquisition right, $21,700 approximately, a little bit more.
And in discussions with the property owner, have they expressed concerns about the dollar amount, or is it other issues that are slowing things up?
Madam President, Commissioner McKinney, actually, most of the discussion has revolved around making sure the access remains open through the front door, actually pedestrian access, so,
Okay.
and contractual issues. That's what most of the discussion has been around.
Okay. Looks like Mr. Price has something to say.
Thank you, Madam President, Commissioners. For the record, Steve Price, General Counsel. Whenever we run into these national banks or national stores, we're not dealing with the people that are in that building like many of the other properties. We're dealing with huge bureaucracy. And one thing that we've learned is once we get an order of condemnation, that seems to wake up the process and speed things up. But it's very, very common, especially with this bank, this type of bank, that we don't get responses, we don't get anything, and it's back somewhere, back east somewhere or wherever, sitting on their desk, and they're not really paying attention to it. So when we get an order of condemnation, this really helps us bring attention to it, and the likelihood of settling is very, very high.
Okay, good, thank you.
Thanks, Mr. Serto. Thanks, Mr. Price. Anything else, Mr. McKinney? No. Commissioner Hanson?
But just a quick question. This is, we had 4 of the condemnations. I mean, 1 last week, 3 this week, 1 just got resolved for this project. It's a top priority for the city of Eagle and has been for a long time. And so my question is, does the city of Eagle play any role in trying to get these things resolved? Because it's their downtown area, and yet it seems to be taking quite a long time to get these last pieces of property resolved, because we're having to do that. What's the role of the city of Eagle, since it's their #1 priority? I think it's their #1 priority.
Madam President, Commissioners, Commissioner McKinney, Diane Bevins, Manager of Capital Projects, for the record. Sorry, it's Commissioner Hanson that asked the question. No, these transactions are between ACHD and the property owner. So the city does not play a role in our negotiations on these. That would very much complicate a very complicated right-of-way negotiation already. We, on this project, our right-of-way team has really done a great job, but we did get right-of-way plans later than we normally would because of some of the redesign that we have been doing for the city. So we, a little bit more time would have helped in this situation. So that's why we're trying to meet our timeline, and we have a timeline for condemnation, and that's the main thing for this project. It's critical to have possession of their property so we can go out to bid. So a lot of these are just based on the schedule.
All right. Well, thanks, Commissioner Hanson. Stacy, is there anyone that's here that would like to testify on this issue? All right. Well, I'm going to go ahead and close the public hearing. Commissioners, is there a motion?
Yes,
Commissioner Goldthorpe.
I'll move that we authorize condemnation of Eagle Road and State Street intersection parcel 48.
Second.
Moved and seconded. Any other discussion? All those in favor say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Motion carries. All right, and then thanks for staying up there, Dave. The third item is the authorization and order of condemnation for Eagle Road and State Street intersection parcels 5 and 6. This is also a public hearing, so I'm going to go ahead and open that as well. Over to you, Mr. Serdar.
Thank you, Madam President, Commissioners. For the record, David Serdar, right-of-way supervisor for Ada County Highway District. I'd like to start this presentation off by just noting that there was a clerical error in the staff report that has been corrected. It was uploaded. This clerical error related to the subject property size in the before condition. It was actually 88,000 square feet and 2.038 acres. So we had put 34 there. So that's been corrected and was viewed de minimis when we brought this up with our legal department. So once again, this acquisition is also for our Eagle and State intersection. The owners of this are S3 Properties LP and SFG Capital. There's actually two owners listed on that. As far as the project, it's the same that applies in the last presentation, the same information. Once again, this is our vicinity map. As you can see here, we're actually on the west side of State Street, just across the street from, or just also lining up with Plaza Street. This is actually the Walgreens, is in this building, and this is the access for the Walgreens building or the Walgreens is the tenant of the building. S3 is actually the owner of the building. So here is a site map with actually a close-up view of the acquisition and the temporary construction easement. Once again, here's the property description, and as you can see, the actual property size before has been adjusted. The offer package, a summary of negotiations, the offer package was mailed to the owners on April 24th, 2023. ACHD ACHD Right-of-Way and ACHD Legal have been in continuous contact with the property owners, the tenant, and their legal representatives. This condemnation is also a timing issue, and we were consistently working with the property owner to get this resolved in a timely fashion. So what Mr. Price said on the last condemnation, this certainly applies in this one as well. So it is staff recommendation that we declare the acquisition area necessary for the project as right-of-way and public use, authorize staff to proceed with condemnation action, and execute an order of condemnation. And once again, I'll remain standing with the same options as the last time.
Thank you, Mr. Stewart. Any questions? Commissioner McKinney?
Madam President, Dave, again, on this one, what kind of a cost are we looking at for the acquisition here?
$26,292.
So that's the offer that's been made to the owner, okay?
Correct.
All right. And as far as all the property involved in this project, where do we stand? How many more parcels do we have to deal with?
There are 2 phases to this project.
Okay.
You have seen the one last week, Albertsons, and you've seen the Albertsons from last week. We also have we have the McDonald's, which is also on this corner, coming up in most likely September. As hopefully we can get it resolved, but a condemnation. But we're about halfway through on the 2 projects.
So we've got about how many more parcels that we're dealing with? 5 or 6?
4 on the bottom end, and then we got 5 or 6 on the top end.
Okay, so about another 8 or 9.
Yes.
Okay, all right. Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
Any other questions for staff? Stacy, is there anyone that'd like to testify? Okay. Well, with that, I'm going to go ahead and close the public hearing. Commissioners?
I'll go ahead and make a motion to authorize the order of condemnation for Eagle Road.
Second. It's been moved and seconded. Any other discussion? All those in favor say aye. Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, and then moving on to item number 4, it's the authorization order of condemnation for Eagle Road and State Street intersection, parcel 39. Welcome, Justin.
Thank you, Madam President, members of the commission. For the record, Justin Lucas, Deputy Director of Planning and Projects here at the Highway District. As stated during pre-commission, just happy to report that staff has successfully negotiated a deal with this property owner, and they did sign prior to this action. They actually signed after the agenda was posted, which is why it's still before you today. And staff would request that you remove this item from the agenda.
Thanks, Justin. Any questions for staff? Okay, commissioners, is there a motion?
Yes, Madam President, I would move that item number 4 from the agenda back to staff.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded. Any discussion? All those in favor say aye. Aye.
Aye.
Aye.
Motion carries. Thank you, Justin. That's a good news. Then item number 5, the authorization order of condemnation for Lake Hazel Road and Eagle Road ACHD project number 319050 parcels 5 and 20, and Eagle Road, Lake Hazel Road to Amity Road ACHD project number 319050 parcels 8, 9, 11, and 21. Justin.
Madam President, members of the commission, thank you very much. Once again, Justin Lucas. Same as last time on this one, staff is recommending that this be removed from the agenda and remanded back indefinitely to staff. We have reached a amenable and negotiation, and we actually got signatures on this one this morning. I do believe a member of the team that we worked with at Boise Hunter Homes is here today and has something to speak to. But once again, staff's recommendation and request is that this be removed from the agenda. Thank you.
Thanks, Justin. Mr. Hunter, do you want to?
Madam President,
Commissioner McKinney, or Commissioner Goldthorpe, excuse me.
before Travis addressed, just would like to let you know why I be able to address us. We deal with tons of these condemnations. Plus years that I've been on the commission, we've heard folks like Mr. Hunter once. Interesting. This process is reasons that we have to be grateful. Does all this work on our behalf.
Come on up, Mr. Hunter. Thanks, Commissioner Goldthorpe. Just state your name and address for the record.
Yeah, thank you, Madam President. My name is Travis Hunter with Boise Hunter Homes, 923 South Bridgeway Place in Eagle. Thank you for the opportunity to speak. So the condemnation process that we just went through, or I guess not condemnation, the deal that we struck, it was complex and atypical, but as of yesterday, we have an amicable solution. For the benefit of Commissioner Gold, maybe you guys, if you don't remember the details of this process, it's been going on for a little over a year. So we're a residential developer and home builder. We have a project off of Eagle and Amity called Sky Mesa. The most recent phase where we received a preliminary plat, I believe, was in 2019. And typically how the process works is, through the application process with Meridian, they reach out to you guys for comments. You guys might say, we need X amount of right-of-way that were, given to us through the preliminary plat process for future improvements, et cetera. And that's the easiest process. So we all know, hey, in the future, this road's coming through, and this is what we're going to need, and we grant that to you guys at the preliminary plat stage. With this specific property, we came to find out last year that more right-of-way was needed than that wasn't granted at our preliminary plat in 2019. And I understand why final engineering hadn't really been done at that point to understand exactly what was needed for the improvements that you guys are doing off of Eagle Road. And we actually encounter that all the time as well. People ask us in our next phase of development, hey, can you tell me specifically where this community center is going to be and exactly how the parking lot's going to be for it? And we kind of work 1 year in advance in our business, maybe a year and a half, in terms of the actual detailed engineering. But so anyway, it became apparent last year that more right-of-way was needed. And at that point, we had built a very nice berm and landscaped it between the backyards of the houses and Eagle Road, as is typical in our business. And so this came to a head, I guess, last year. We began working with staff at y'all's direction and at the director's direction to find a solution. And so the solution that we found is ACHD is going to be building, as they're going to be elevating Eagle Road. At some point, I think it's up to close to 15 feet higher than where it's currently sitting. ACHD is going to build a sound wall for us. I believe it's close to 6 or 7 feet at points in it. And for us, what the biggest challenging part of it is so at Eagle and Taconic is the entrance of our project, and this is where the roundabout is going. And that's where called our entry monument, all of our nice landscaping, and the primary access to this project is. So what we've requested from ACHD is, I believe the project was slated to, right at that roundabout, start construction towards the beginning of 2024. And we will be done selling out that project, hopefully by mid-year next year. And so we asked if they could shift the prioritization within that project to where you guys don't completely shut down our access and rip out our landscaping for our entry until June 1st. And so that's what you guys have agreed to do. And there was a dollar amount of compensation offered. We didn't argue over a penny of it. We said that's fine, we'll take it. We've been through a few condemnations with other agencies before as well, and we're a little bit more sophisticated on understanding valuation than maybe your average Joe. And but we said that's fine, we'll take the dollar amount if you could just delay construction right there till June 1st and build the sound wall. And so we've arrived there, we signed the documents. I guess they got in your hands this morning, and we're very happy. And so I just wanted to say thank you specifically to your staff, Diane and Justin. It's been a great process coming to a solution on this complex issue. And on another note, I was just at another agency earlier this morning, and they were nowhere near as professional or reasonable to work with as you guys. And so it's a breath of fresh air coming back to ACHD right now. So anyway, thank you, and I just wanted to update you on the process.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Hunter. Commissioner Goldthorpe.
I hope you've all enjoyed this as much.
Yeah.
Again, me to see.
Thank you.
With that, I would like to make a motion that we remand.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded. Any other discussion? I just want to say thanks, Mr. Hunter, for coming down and being that collaborative partner in that. All right, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Moving on to public communications. Is there any member of the public that would like to address the commission at this time? Sir? Yeah, you're welcome to come up. You've got 3 minutes. Do you want to state your name and address for the record, please?
My name is Lynn Smith, and I'm just a citizen, I guess. I've never done this before, so bear with me as I stumble through this. But I have a question.
Do you mind stating your address, please?
11628 West Fenchurch Street, Boise.
Thank you.
Is this the right body to discuss road specifications, road work?
Yeah, that's us. That's perfect.
Okay, well, I won't be real popular when we're done here. I'm sorry.
That's all right.
I'm here to discuss or find out what the issue is about road specifications for when a contractor cuts the road for utilities or some other reason. When they finish and do the paving job, they're doing a very poor job. Case in point, Victory to Amity on Maple Grove, Overland to Victory on 5 Mile, Cloverdale, Amity to Victory. All those roads, it's like driving on a roller coaster. And they say, well, you got these speed bumps that are 1/4 inch plus, that's acceptable. What the hell do you mean it's acceptable? There's a word here called level. What is the problem with having the contracts written where the specifications call it to be level? The signal you're all sending is it's okay to do subpar work. We're satisfied with second and third place trophies. We the people that are paying the bill find that unacceptable. There's no reason why they can't be level, and they can't do it without your vehicle going like this or like this. You drive with a cup of water, by the time you get to your destination, it better be half empty because you're going to have it all over your lap. And I don't know why it's acceptable to continue to do this kind of work. I guess that's my complaint.
Well, thank you for coming, and you're not alone in that. And we feel the same, like each of us individually has noticed this and feel the heartburn and pain that you're experiencing. But Commissioner Coulter, did you have something to say?
Yes, I'd just like to disclose this gentleman I have had over time.
You're Kent? Hi.
Oh, I'm sorry. We've had a couple of conversations, and as you just heard, he shares what I have voiced on a number of occasions over the past year. And so now you've heard it from someone besides me, and I believe and hope and pray that we take this very seriously with regards to the folks that cut into our right-of-way and ours and the public's roads and leave it in less than pristine condition. Shouldn't happen.
Yeah, it should be in as good or better condition than before you cut the road. The question is, like you mentioned, but what's being done about it? Everybody's complaining, but where's the action plan to fix this? We're sending a signal to the contractors, it's okay to do subpar work, and we're gonna pay you very good money to do subpar work. That's unacceptable. I've built roads before in my life and all that, so I'm not just blowing smoke here, because there's no reason for it not to be a very good job when they're finished.
Well, sir, I just want to clarify. So what you're describing is not, this is outside of our jurisdiction. So this is, utility companies and their contractors. So this isn't an ECHD. We're not contracting with those folks that are making those cuts and that are making those improvements in the roadway. And so I think staff, does anyone want to come up and explain what we have been working with those utility companies to remedy those issues as they come up?
But don't they have to do them per your specifications?
Yes.
Yes. And
So
so
in
there's,
essence, you're in charge. You're writing the book.
and that's what I'm going to, staff will explain how we're following through on those things.
Madam President,
Commissioner Coulter.
Ryan has been the one who has been personally in charge of mitigating a couple of these projects lately that I've complained the longest and loudest about. So got the right guy here.
Madam President, Commission, thank you for the question. When we permit these projects, we do have an inspector who does review. When their work is not of adequate quality, we do require them to go back and fix them. The challenge we've a lot of us experienced over the winter time is that a lot of work was still being done during the time that the hot plants were closed. And so we ended up with a lot of cold mix. But we do continue to review these after we've required them to remove that and put in higher quality or the hot mix after the hot plants have opened. We also will continue to monitor those for a period of time to make sure that there's not settling. And I personally have experienced a number of those being revised. When we do have newer roads, we do have a moratorium policy that they can't cut into it within 5 years without, some exceptions are approved, but in those cases, we require them to pay back far more than just a standard repair of the patch, rather full widths patching. So it's never as perfect as it was if done in one patch or one swath, like when we have a new road. But we do try and get it back as close to as normal as possible in that process. So I can have my team look at those locations again. I know that they've been watching. Some of those repairs are still ongoing, and some of that work is still ongoing through the Veolia, the utility company, as well as the Intermountain Gas has finished a lot of the work on Cloverdale. But that is the process we follow.
So, sir, I think we can't take any action from public communications that are shared at this time, but we're happy to have you chat with staff and see if there's a way we can look into those particular segments that you're talking about and see where they are in the queue in terms of being hopefully adjusted and improved so that they're not as problematic.
That's fine. Thanks.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
All right, well, with that, meeting is adjourned.